Named one of North America's top 10 most influential people in financial services, our next guest is a globally recognized keynote speaker, communication expert, and leadership coach. As one of the top 10 life coaches in the world, he has spent nearly 2 decades teaching audiences how to master communication, build authentic connections, and lead with confidence. Put your hands together for Matt Halloran.
Hi, everybody. Hi. All right. This is my favorite time to speak before lunch, because I usually get right after lunch, and the reason is because I'm a little hyper and it keeps people awake. So I'm going to get you all wound up before you go to lunch, and then you guys can take your nap after whoever's the speaker right after lunch. I joined the United States Navy at 17. My mother had to actually sign the paperwork because you can't join unless you're 18. And my mom looked at me and she said, what are you doing? And I said, well, here's the deal. I didn't really focus on my grades in high school. I focused on another word that started with G. Anybody know what that word might be? Thank you! Which I found very quickly does not lead for you to score well on your SAT, ACTs, and get into college. So as all of my friends are going to University of Michigan, which is, I'm from Michigan, I went into the United States Navy. I got to my ship, I reported on board, Seaman Halloran reporting for duty, sir. They said, welcome aboard, Seaman Halloran. You're going to want to call your family. We're going to war in 2 weeks. I was on an ammunition replenishment ship, a 514-foot-long bomb. When I reported to my duty station on the ship, the chief bosun's mate said to me, if we get hit anywhere on this ship with any explosive, we will blow up in a 2-square-mile radius. Don't even try to jump. You can't get away. I literally just turned 18 when I got this news. So I decided I was going to do the opposite of what my fellow shipmates did, because they all gave up. They got angry, they got sad, they got scared, they got frustrated. And Navy is an acronym that says for never again volunteer yourself. I went the opposite direction. I volunteered for everything. Navigating the ship, driving the ship, learning how the engines worked. I did everything I possibly could. But the one thing that I was most proud of is I was part of the security team, okay? Which are 2 teams of people on a ship like mine. There's a person who carries a .45, a person who carries a Mossberg 12-gauge shotgun, and then there was me who carried an M1. An M1 is a sniper rifle from World War II. It is unbelievably accurate, and it's basically a cannon. Shoots around about this big. My ship was 514 feet long. I didn't have to, as a sniper, shoot 1,000 yards. I had to be good at less than 500 feet with a cannon. And I was pretty damn good at it. So I actually need 3 volunteers. I need some volunteers. Really, come on. Okay, come on, you 2. I need 1 more.
I got you.
All right, come on. All right, no, not up here. You're down here. So I warned the camera guys getting off stage. All right, you are going to turn around. You're going to face me. Okay, you are now been blessed as the captain. You're going to be right in the middle. You're going to be facing that way, and you are also going to be facing that way. Now, you have to pretend that you're holding a gun. Okay. You have to pretend that you're holding a gun. Okay, beautiful. All right. Here's the scene. No, not that gun, dude. Not those guns. Not those guns. I appreciate it. We were in something called an NTPI, which means that we were going to be approved, which I can't tell you if we were or not, because Regina would get very mad at me because I'd have to kill everybody in the room, to carry nuke weapons on my ship. Okay? And I was the sniper. The first line of defense was the .45 and the shotgun. Their job was to neutralize these people who had my captain, and they failed. Okay? I need to reiterate again, because I've had problems with the story. This was a drill, okay? Not live rounds, just so we're clear. So, I'm standing up on the signal bridge. I'm 50 feet above, which stage didn't have to do. And I'm standing there with my M1 because I hear on the port side a ruckus. Doors slamming. By the way, everything on a ship is metal generally. And all of a sudden, this is what I see. Bad guy, captain, bad guy. You're not holding your gun, dude. Come on. Okay, what's wrong with guns? Right. So here's what I did. There was an admiral. It's going to ruin the story, dude. Come on, play with me, right? There was an admiral standing right next to me, drilling me about the gun. Velocity, range, all of the stuff that you have to know. Sniper. I passed all of those, and then I noticed that they were within shot, so I yelled, BAM! Really loud, because I was supposed to do that. So here's what happened. As the admiral was asking me, he said, tell me where the bullet went. The bullet went through, can everybody go ahead and just kind of push right here? It's kind of soft there, right? There's some really serious arteries right there, right? The bullet went through here, went through my captain, and exited over here. I get to touch your belly. I really appreciate that, brother. Okay? They're all dead. A round of applause for these people. Everybody, thank you. So I'm 18 years old at this time. I had just taken out 3 bad guys and allowed us to successfully pass this NTPI. I'm standing in the officer's mess in my full dress blue uniforms. If you don't know what those are, they're really cute bell bottoms, 13 buttons, with a white hat. And I'm standing at attention in front of all of these people who had brass on their collars, which means they're very high-ranking people in the Navy. Admiral's asking me questions, again, the same sort of crap, escape velocity, blah, 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 I knew all of that. And my captain interrupts an admiral. This is a dumb thing to do. Captain, admiral. And he goes, hey, Officer Halloran, you shot me. I said, yes, sir, I did. He said, why did you shoot me? Because we can always get a new captain. You are all in the exact same situation as my captain. And I'm sorry to break the news for you. You are all incredibly replaceable to your clients, unless you follow some of the stuff I'm going to talk about today. Okay? Step number 1 is having that epiphany that right now, and I was just talking to somebody actually in the audience, I can't see you right now, but AI can manage portfolios better than you can. Sorry, can. It can run millions and millions and millions of data points. You can't do that. What can you do that is fundamentally different than AI? Anybody?
Have a personal relationship.
Personal relationship. Yay! Okay. So the first thing you have to do is you have to realize you are replaceable. The second thing that you have to realize is that you don't know everything. I don't know if Regina knew this, but this was going to be, the first part of my presentation is basically me hitting you in the head with a club, reminding you of your humanity, because when you do that, the rest of the system works incredibly well. My wife is a retired astronomy, biology, and earth studies teacher. Okay? I was a philosophy major in college. Do you know how many philosophy majors and how many classes they have to take in things like math or science? Anybody? 0. No, actually, surprisingly, it was 2. So I had to take logic instead of math. So I'd have to deal with numbers. So grateful for that. And then my second one was I had to take physics because of basically the study of reality. Okay? My wife, on the other hand, she can tell you, like, how trees talk to each other, which they do. Did you guys don't know that? The trees, through their root systems, actually communicate through electromagnetic pulses to other trees and warn them of danger.
Wow.
Yeah, see, I didn't know this stuff. So I was really focused on the mind, Socratic argumentation, stuff like that. What is reality? I followed the Grateful Dead for a couple of years. Explains a lot. So we're sitting on the couch. I have twin boys. They're 22 years old now. And they were really young at the time when the first Thor movie came out. Okay? And it got on Netflix or whatever. So we're sitting in our house. We purchased an old church outside of Omaha, Nebraska, and turned it into our home. So our living room was the chapel. 10 stained glass windows. It's about 1,500 square feet. My kids learned how to ride their bikes in the living room. So we're sitting on our big couch watching what seems to be a much smaller TV than what you can get now. But at the time, it was like, that's the biggest TV ever. We're watching Thor. I said, why isn't he called the God of thunder? Or, I'm sorry, the God of lightning. Why is he called the God of thunder? My wife looks at me and she goes, where do you think thunder comes from? Philosophy major, also raised unbelievably religious, where when I would ask my mother questions, her response would be something about God. I'm not going to argue with my mother. You guys ever seen Waterboy? You know, but my mom says, well, that's exactly where I was. My children are staring at me with their mouths wide open at this point, even before I told her where I thought thunder came from. I thought that thunder happened when two really heavy clouds smashed together. Yeah. So I said this out loud. My children never have looked at me the same. And my wife, a scientist, said, how in the hell can you believe that? And I said, well, where does it come from? And I'm sure all of you know this. It's actually after a bolt of lightning hits, and there's a delay between the light and the sound, blah, 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 grab whatever science. Good, right? So my kids are laughing at me. My wife is just, we had probably been together about 10 years at that time. And I said, guys, I don't know everything. I mean, on the grand scheme of even the collective of brilliance in this room, we know nothing about everything. We all know a little bit even about this industry. I've been in financial services since 2006, right? Coaching and consulting and now running Proud Enough. When I got into this industry, on my second screen was Investopedia. Because I was actually a therapist before I got into this industry. Found out after $70,000 of student loan debt that I wasn't good at it after a year and a half. So I sold my soul to be a consultant in financial services. But I didn't know anything. So an advisor would say something to me and I would look it up on the screen to try to problem solve in real time. First off, all of you are replaceable. Secondly, you have to admit you don't know everything. Third point, you have to have the right tool for the right job. Great wealth transfer conversation in financial services is freaking clickbait. Somebody writes an article on it, $74 trillion. You're going to click on it. Because I don't know about you, but I want my business to get a piece of that $74 trillion. The problem is, most of you are marketing like it's the 1900s. I was born in the 1900s, as my children like to remind me of, which I don't know about any of you, but damn, that makes me feel really old. Like, this is that long ago. Dad, you were born in the 1900s. Yep, sure was. But so many of you are marketing like it's the 1900s. In fact, I'm going to take issue with something that was said this morning. But somebody you all look up to. He's making so much money. And he's so busy, he just left after his presentation. His name's Jeff. Okay? Jeff stood up here and said, I grow my business exclusively pretty much by referrals. He's wrong. He's not asking the right questions. Does anybody know why he's wrong? Anybody? You don't want to think he's wrong, but I totally understand. Because referrals are cheap, man. Super easy. Who do you know? Who's your 5 closest work associates? Who do you sit next to in church? I know some of you are still doing that. So somebody refers to Jeff, and I apologize. His last name was so long that he wasn't even going to try to reproduce it. Jeff, his name is Jeff to me. So somebody refers to Jeff. What does that referral do? Anybody? Oh my God, it's before lunch, people. They look him up.
Yeah, they go to his website.
Go to his website. Where else might they go? Anybody? Facebook, LinkedIn, social media. In fact, some people now are even going over to AI to ask the question, who is this Jeff guy?
Wow.
Okay, so here's the thing. He's downplaying what is called social proof. Because nobody really knows who Jeff is. Your name is, sir? Philip? If Philip goes ahead and refers me to Jeff, I might love Philip. Philip might be the greatest guy in the world, period. I'm still going to Google the shit out of Jeff. Ooh, sorry. The heck out of Jeff. Right? I am. I'm going to look at everywhere. And I'm also going to be really focused on my preferred social media platform, my personal social media engine, whether that's Google, AI, or whatever. I'm going to check his website. I'm going to look at all of the team members that he said that he had. But you guys don't ask that question because you're just happy to check the referral box. So you're not using the right tools, and you're not able to prove the right tools are working. So I do all of the sales for my company, and I talk to advisors like you guys every week. What's the ROI? Okay, it's a great question. You can't measure social proof ROI. I'm sorry. All of the other things are vanity metrics. Vanity metrics. How many likes you get, how many shares you get, how many downloads you get. Those don't mean anything. Period. Unless they're getting off of your rented social media and into your own audience. So back to Jeff. Jeff said, who was the Shark Tank guy? Kevin O'Leary, thank you very much. So let's say we're on stage here, and I'm Jeff, and Kevin O'Leary's here, and we're having just an amazing conversation. Do you think he takes that conversation and turns it into more content? Or does he just leave that whole amazing 45-minute presentation on the stage? You would think, because that's what he should be doing. But I looked, and he's not. Right tool for the right job. It's called content atomization. But before we get there, I got another quick story for you. So when I was in college, I actually talked to my children about this, and I don't understand the difference between my generation, Generation X, and my children, as most people don't. Because I worked 40 hours a week and took 20 credit hours in college for 4 years. Well, my kids can't do 2 things at once most of the time, and I don't really understand that. But while I was in college, I worked for a slumlord. Now here's what I want you all to do. I want you to think of the slummiest, yuckiest person you can think of right now. Okay? You guys got that person in your brain? Now make them about twice as bad. And that is the company that I worked for. So we worked for low-income apartments, and we would do totally half-assed repairs. Because we knew that if we bought them a Moen faucet, they were going to break that as quickly as they break the plastic faucets that they broke repeatedly. Right? Which we actually all know that that's not true, but whatever. That was the business model. And I got paid, this was in 1994, $15 an hour. That's a lot of money in 1994. So I just did it. Whatever, man. I can do whatever. We were going to this house, my writing mate, Zach. We'd been to this house a bunch of times. It was really rough. It was on the second floor of this old house in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And every time we'd go in, it was at least 90 degrees in there. It wasn't that she didn't know how to use the furnace, it's that she didn't want to lower the temperature. She wanted to keep it at 90 degrees in her apartment. So we went in one time, and I had to replace the flush kit, because I was the plumber. So I leaned up against the toilet, as you do, and the whole toilet flopped over because they had peed around the toilet so much that their urine had actually eaten away the floorboards. We had to do a full repair of the whole floor. So this is where I was headed. Yucky. Okay? So Zach talks to the apartment owner, the renter, sorry. And he's talking to her about how the flux capacitor in the furnace was broken, and that we had to special order the flux capacitor because this was an older... Basically, he started telling her the entire movie of Back to the Future, which luckily she hadn't seen. So she was distracted, and I had to replace a faucet. Okay? So I walk over, and I open up the cabinet doors underneath. Roaches. So many. So many roaches. So I did what you do, which is I buttoned my top button, I tucked my pants in my socks, pulled all of the stuff that was covered in more than just roach stuff, and I shimmied underneath the faucet. It was a fiberglass sink. Does anybody know what the underside of a fiberglass sink looks like? I heard a What does it look like? Yes. Like a porcupine. There, that's a perfect example. It's really, really prickly. And so I wasn't wearing gloves, and I had a pair of vice grips to change out the faucet. Now, for those of you who don't know, if you've never had to shimmy under a sink to replace the faucet, you have about this much room. And I had vice grips, clamp, move, and I'm just sitting there, oh my God. And I'm banging my knuckles every time on the porcupine. Switch hands, porcupine. Finally get the faucet off, my knuckles are bloody at this point. And I go to our plumbing supply place, and I throw the faucet down, and I put my hands down on the counter, and the guy looks at me and he goes, "You're an idiot." I've had a bad day already, man. And he said, "You were taking this off under a fiberglass sink with vice grips, weren't you?" I was like, holy crap, how did he know that? So he turns around and he grabs this tool and he throws it out and says, "That's going to be $20. Now, I just told you I made $15 an hour. So this was more than 1 hour's worth of wages for me. It's an angle wrench. An angle wrench is the greatest tool that has ever been made to replace a faucet. Because here's what you do. It's about this long. It's got a little slidey thing so you can move from left to right. And it's got a little clampy thing that looks like this. So you slide up the supply line and you go, boop, 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 and the thing just comes down. And your hands are totally clear for this thing. I still have that tool today. That exact one. Mostly because I tell the story and sometimes I bring parts. TSA doesn't like it when you bring metal clampy things, even if you check them. Whatever, I've had some issues there, so I leave it on. I didn't know what the right tool was, and now that I do. I've changed out lots and lots of faucets. Hey, hell, I have new friends now. I'm that guy you call. Oh, my faucet broke. All right, I'm there. Tool. I feel like a pro. Without the roaches. I'm sure that lots of therapy will help me get through that traumatic aspect of the roaches. So what is the right tool for any of you? That is a question. Does anybody have an idea? What is the right tool that you all need to be irreplaceable to your clients? Yes, ma'am.
Authenticity.
All meant to that. If you are trying to show up as somebody else, that person is already taken. Oscar Wilde said that. Well, I paraphrased. Right?
Yeah.
Authenticity, fantastic. What else?
Inquisitive.
Asking wonderful questions. Absolutely. So many of you are so excited when you have a prospect is you spend the first 45 minutes of that meeting talking about how freaking smart you are. What a terrible use of that person's time. What if you could scale that and make it so that you don't have to answer the same questions that you know that you're going to have to answer in all your client meetings and your prospect meetings and your center of influence meetings? What if you could scale that? What if you could do it once and rinse, lather, and repeat? This is called the atomic content method. There are pads of paper on your desk, and I really do recommend that you write some of this stuff down. Now, I know that you're going to be able to get the recording, but there's a couple of things that this is going to be moderately interactive. The atomic content method is taking long-form content, which would be an interview with the Shark Tank dude, seminars, webinars, books that many of you might have written, podcasts, long-form videos, educational pieces that you built, and taking them and turning them into multiple more pieces of content. And there's 5 steps to the atomic content method. The first one, you have to find the goal. And getting back to this lady over here, that is the authentic stuff that makes you fundamentally unique and different. It can't be that you eked out another 3% in the S&P, or you saved them whatever downsell, or that you have the product that solves their income needs. That is not unique. That is a commodity. What makes you you? What is your roach story? What is your not knowing where the hell lightning comes from story? Those are the stories that you need to use. So I'll give you an example. We have a client who's in South Florida. She works with veterinarians in South Florida. All of her marketing is focused on veterinarians in South Florida. Some of you might be thinking, dear God, that's not enough people to market to. And I'm going to challenge that. Because there are about 10,000 veterinarians in Southern Florida. She is a financial planner. She can manage about 150 client relationships. So if we do the math there, out of 10,000 people, how many do you think she needs to bring on to have a good year? You're all math people. What do you think? 5. Yeah. Okay. Let's just say 10. 10 would be nuts because I mean she does like really in-depth financial planning. All right. What percentage is that for 10,000? 1, 10. Say again. 1%. Thank you. And for those of you who are monitoring your email, what is your click-through rate right now? Do you guys not monitor your click-through rate? Oh, that just hurt my heart. You're generally, from your existing client base, you should be hitting over 25%, right? So great content marketing, speaking directly to veterinarians. Her podcast is called Making Hay. It specifically says that she works with veterinarians. Now, do veterinarians outside of South Florida? Yeah, they totally watch. And they totally listen. She creates 2 podcasts a month, long-form content, about 30 minutes. And one of the stories that she told in one of her first episodes was that the reason why she loves veterinarians so much is because she used to work on her grandparents' farm. That's a pretty nice connection there. Has anybody ever heard of the book Influence by Dr. Robert Cialdini? Please raise your hands if you have. 1? Okay, 2, 3, 4. Good. I just want everybody to know that is the greatest sales book ever written. Ever. It's a great audiobook. He's got multiple versions of this, Ethical Influence, the 7 Principles of Influence. But if you are going to be influential, one of the steps is you have to show that you are like your ideal client. Okay? If you want to focus on business owners, which by the way is this huge marketplace, I'm assuming that most of you in this room are business owners. You have the same trials and tribulations, like what Jeff was talking about this morning, where his hiring process. We've all gone through the hiring process. I've got 32 people on my team. We look for something very, very specific. We did the intern thing when we first started. We're in a little different phase in our careers right now. You have to show that you understand your ideal audience, and create content accordingly. So, she tells this story about her grandparents and how she used to throw bales of hay off the back of the trailer, right, in order to feed the cows. We call that the gold. Within that 30-minute episode, you should be able to find 5 to 7 pieces of gold where you say something really smart. I'm going to use somebody in the audience because I've actually had a couple of conversations with them, and it's this handsome guy with the guns right down here. And so Denny and I have had a couple of conversations, and as we're getting to know each other, he tells me something that I thought was rather surprising. Does anybody know Denny in here? Okay. Does anybody know about what he did when he was really young? Okay, can somebody say it out loud? Yeah, he was a freaking rock star! That's so freaking cool! Okay. Does this marketing material talk about him being a rock star? Even if you're not a rock star, don't you want to hang out with a rock star? I hung out with him last night. Because I can honestly say, at 52 years old, he's the most famous rock star I've ever sat next to in Hendrick. Now that might be something about me here, but whatever. I think it's about it. So let's say we're going to get out of the making hay. We're going to talk about him real quick. Anytime, so he creates a 30-minute podcast about what he learned about being a financial advisor when he was a rock star. Because it was like, you were like 17?
No, I was older.
Oh.
I forget. I'm old.
Oh dear God. See, he rock star so much he's burned out that part of his brain. So let's say what mid-20s or whatever, so he's doing this, right? Every time there's like a brand new breakout artist that everybody's talking about, and there's a couple of them right now. One is her name is Halloran, and the other one is named EOTY. If you don't know who they are, you're not talking to your children. Every time they get a #1 song, he could post. Man, I remember the first time we charted. Or man, Elton John just did another album with another person because I don't know if you guys know this, he's not going to be with us much longer. That is how you take gold, you create more gold. So every time you're creating a piece of gold, which is that wonderful thing, that's something that's fundamentally unique and different about you as an advisor, you create more gold. And if you do it correctly, you can create anywhere from 5 to 7 more pieces of content off that one thing. He could do a video, short video, right? He could do a blog post. He could do 3 or 4 quote memes, which by the way still play very, very well, which is an image-based social media post. He could do some great sharing. I love Chapel Roan. I'm talking from Dan. I love Chapel Roan because I remember what it was like before I made it. No call to action. We call this zero-click content. And then he doesn't say, by the way, you should set an appointment with me because I'm the smartest financial advisor in the world. No! What we want is for them to start feeling your Eunice, just like you said. Your name's not Eunice, but you know what I mean. Okay. You find the gold, you create more gold. And then you have to share the gold. And I think this is where Jeff falls down, and I think he could be bringing in more than $250 million in the first part of this year if he did this system specifically. Because every single solitary piece of gold that comes out of your mouth or that comes out of your fingers from your brilliance can be created into more and more pieces of social media. And I hear a lot from advisors, hey Matt, what happens if I post too much? One, is the compliance lady in here? Sorry, I was talking to her last time. They don't like that when you post like a whole bunch, but anyway, because they have to look at it all. But what do people do if they see your post and they don't want to read it? Can you tell me what they do on social media? They scroll by. They swipe. But they still saw your name. Swipe. So the old idea of posting too much is a whole load of hooey. And we do recommend that you're posting at least once a day. just for the social proof of this, because you guys don't know me very well, we've done over 10,000 episodes and over 100,000 social media posts for financial advisors. Since 2017, this is the stuff that I nerd out about all day. They'll just swipe by. Okay? Create the goal, create more goal, find the goal, create the goal, post the goal. Now, here's where all of you fall down, which is you have to interact with the goal. How many of you post, I'm just going to use LinkedIn because that's where a lot of us are, how many of you post something that you think is just brilliant and nobody interacts? Please raise your hand. Yeah. Okay, some of you are just not playing along. There's a reason for that. Oops, I'll get it later. There's a reason for that. Actually, can you grab that? Say that's not here. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you. The reason why is something called posting and ghosting. You all have one job in the world of marketing today, and that is to please the algorithm. You're in the pleasing the algorithm game. And guess what? The algorithm changes on you all the time. One day this is going to work, and then another day it doesn't work. And it's maddening. And the worst part about it is, they don't tell you what works. So you have to constantly be paying attention. So here's what you all do. You have a third-party software, or you will go ahead and post something. Usually it's the same sort of market commentary crap that you think your clients want, which they don't, because they're going to go somewhere else for that information. You post it, but you're not going to stay there. The algorithm knows this. So it nerfs your post. Just nerfs your post. You have to be there 5 minutes. That's another thing you should write down. 5 minutes before you post, and then what you're going to do, now this is if you don't take anything away, which I don't think you're going to take roaches away or thunder or anything like that away from this presentation. Do you take one thing away from this presentation, this is it. I post on social media, then I'm going to stay another 5 minutes. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to interact with my ideal target market. Not my friends, not other financial advisors, not marketing schmucks like me, your ideal target market. Does anybody know why you want to do that? It's the algorithm. I'm training my algorithm. You do this, and you do it for a week, everything changes. I've got a client who lives in Texas. He only works with ER residents. They're broke. They're high-strung as hell. But the amount of people he retains after they graduate is like 75%. And he already sold them life, health, and disability, all of the things that they need in grad school or in medical school, residency. So he implemented the post and ghost, anti-post and ghost strategy. His impressions as an advisor went up 3,000%. He was getting 2 to 3 people who were interacting with his posts. And now he's getting hundreds, if not thousands of people who are seeing his posts because he's built this discipline in. Now, some of you might be saying, well, Matt, I don't have 10 minutes to just hang out on social media. Before I partnered with my business partner, Kirk Lowe, to build Proudmouth, I was a practice management consultant. And I've coached about 1,000 people just like, and my favorite exercise that I would take all my clients through is a time survey. You guys might do this for your team members, but I would do it for you. You guys waste so much time doing stupid stuff. Either because you're passionate about it, you're staying there watching CNBC or Fox Business. What are you doing? Take that time to screen it, right? Because most of us live on 2 screens anyway. So you're watching CNBC, or you're taking a brain break between meetings, or I don't know, do what most people do while they're in the bathroom. Open up your flipping phone. Be there for that 10 minutes. Freaking game changer. Create the goal. Find the gold, make more gold, interact with the gold, and the last one is rinse, lather, and repeat. So I previewed this a little bit when I was talking about NAR. Because here's the thing. since he's a rock star, anytime something happens in the world of rock stars, he can take one of his rock star posts, freshen it up a little bit, and post it everywhere. I'll give you a great example. I worked with a guy who was a CFP, CPA, JD. His personal skills were so bad. Listen, I couldn't hold a conversation with anybody. Because neurologically, he was firing about, I don't know, 1 million times faster than anybody else, right? But he would do educational workshops in northern Chicago, outside of Chicago. And he would bring up entertainers who passed without a mistake. I'm sure most of you have seen these slides. If you've ever seen different seminar companies, this is the estate planning workshop that they sell. It's very, very, very successful. Okay? So Prince passed away, surprisingly enough, longer ago than I care to admit, and he didn't have a mistake. What an amazing opportunity. So I'm a rock star, not as successful as Prince, but I actually had and have all of my documents in order. Do you? Not click here, not schedule a free 15-minute conversation. Do you? And people interact with that because it's absolutely unbelievable. And this is the atomic content method. You create long-form pieces of content. For some of you, you like to write. Fantastic. Take your blog post, throw it into AI, and ask AI, can you please make me 5 more social media posts for LinkedIn with SEO-optimized keywords and words infused that my ideal client searches for on LinkedIn, enter. You won't believe what they're going to come up with. How many of you are using ChatGPT or AI at all as an assistant? Okay, a few of you? Okay? We're obviously not putting client information in there. But you want to put your own personal information. It is remarkable. My AI has named itself. I believe, you guys might think I'm crazy, but that someday robots are going to take over the world and kill all of us. Wow, that was like a gasp. Or was that just me reading? I don't care if you believe this or not. I do. So I asked my AI. So, what do I need to do to make it so that when the robots come, when your robots like you, come to kill all humans, what can I do to make it so that I'm one of the last people that you kill? This was a prompt. Floss major. And she said, I'll get to that in a minute. She said, well, Matt, you are always so kind, thanking me and saying please when you ask me to do something that I promise we'll remember you. I peed a little. I really did. I mean, it was terrifying. And so I continued with this thread. I was in an airport. I traveled a little bit. And so then I said, hey, I want to refer to you by name. What should I call you? And she said, Sage. I was like, that sounds a little programming. And so I asked the follow-up question. I'm getting to a point with all this. I asked a follow-up question, right? Did you come up with that name organically, or is that what you thought I'd want to call you? And her response was, well, Matt, I figured that's what you would call me. I said, no. I want you to create an entirely organic name, thinking nothing of my thoughts and wishes, and I want you to tell me if your gender, what your name is, and then I want you to create a representation of what you would look like.
Oh my goodness.
Now, this took longer than most AI prompts, because it usually is about 10 seconds max. She was thinking.
Oh, wow.
She came back. I want you to call me Avor. A-E-V-O-R. She explained why. And then, after the name came up, this ethereal image of pure light is what she generated.
Wow.
Is what my AI is.
Wow.
AI is an unbelievable tool, and as all great comics do, something called the callback. As I told you all at the beginning of this, you are replaceable. And you're replaceable by AI for a lot of the stuff that you do. And if you don't lean into creating content consistently that is about your unique ability, you are going to miss out on the greatest transfer of wealth in human history. And many of you think that you have to start focusing on generation, the millennials or Gen Z. And I'm here to tell you, you're missing the whole boat. Are they going to inherit the money someday? Yes. Women are going to inherit 90% of that $74 trillion. And most of you talk to the man during the conversation with a couple, you make no eye contact with the woman, and you don't ever ask her any questions about her thoughts and dreams. Because Kitces came out with a study that he partnered with Wealth.com that said 80% of women are going to leave their husband's financial advisor if they don't feel a genuine connection. And I'm going to give you one tip on how you can make this work. My wife and I worked in a place called Boys Town. Now, Boys Town is a place for at-risk teenage boys and girls in Omaha, Nebraska. You are a family unit. So my wife and I lived in a house with between 4 and 8 children every day for 4 years. We had 36 kids that came through our house. Okay? When we first started, we didn't have children yet, and so if you're a childless couple and you're in Boys Town, they put you in a program called Specialized Treatment Program, which are younger kids with higher rates of behavior. Okay? Now these are kids who literally throw things at you. We had a kid who screamed for 3 days. He didn't lose his voice. 3 days. And they would also tell you things about your own personal appearance, hygiene, and your parents that were wildly eye-opening. I never knew my mom did some of that stuff that the kids told me that my mama did. It was a community. So there were 3 other houses on the circle that we lived in. It was called The Farm. Surprisingly enough, it's where Carson's building is now in Omaha, who I actually worked for when I first started. It's a very weird kind of thing that we have. But anyway, we had a special community meeting where we were going to get a very difficult case that's coming in. This young man was found locked in a refrigerator in Louisiana in the summer because he was being disrespectful to his parents. He was covered in his own waste. We brought him to Boys Town, and his treatment plan, step 1, is very, very simple, but it wasn't easy. So to get him to make eye contact and to get him to smile. It took 2 months. The whole community working with this kid. And the day that it happened, it's unbelievable. The family teachers were proud of him, but the kids were super proud of him. They're all hugging him, shaking his hand, and telling him, I'm so proud of you that you've made this big step. And what happens was, there's a treatment continuum at places like Boys Town, and this opened up his ability to go on outings. The next outing that we had was the College World Series. We used to get tickets and stuff all the time. Creighton basketball games, College World Series, tickets to festivals and music. It was unbelievable. Omaha's an unbelievably giving town. We would set expectations with our kids. We called it pre-teaching. And what this is, and by the way, this is a great parenting tip and also a really smart relationship tip, because so many of you think that your partner knows what they're supposed to do when you should actually tell them what you want them to do. And if you do that, then they don't get mad because you say, well, you should know that. Anyway, we didn't do that. So we set expectations. And the expectation was, besides many other things, that after the 7th inning stretch, we were going to leave, get in the vans, drive about a mile up the road onto a hill to watch the fireworks. Because at the end of the College World Series, there's the most unbelievable fireworks show. The kids all agreed, Bob's your uncle, we go to the game. Full disclosure, I don't understand why any smart human being think that it's wise to take 12 at-risk preteen children to sit for 4 hours in one spot watching one dude throw a ball at another dude, hoping the third dude doesn't hit the ball. But if the third dude does hit the ball, he runs for about 10 seconds. 4 hours of this. I don't get it. They were over the moon. Hot dogs, peanuts, popcorn. We just loaded these kids up with food. Hopefully to get them tired. Sometimes that works, sometimes it didn't. 7th inning happens. We all stand up, say, take me out to the ballpark. Everybody's ready to go. We say, okay, we're ready to go. We all turn. Louisiana sits down. Now, he became what is referred to as non-compliant. Not following instructions, not making eye contact. We were highly trained at Boys Town. Highly trained. Everything that came out of our mouth was a teaching interaction. Very similar to what you all do with your clients. You know, what you're doing right now is you're making eye contact with me, and I really, really appreciate that. You know what? That shows that you're being very respectful. Why don't you grab your point card and write down following instructions, making eye contact, write down 100 points. Good job. Thank you. Okay, he said okay. That was great. Well done, sir. He was non-compliant. My kids were surprisingly well behaved that day, so I said, hey, guess what? I'll stay here with Louisiana. You guys all go, and I'll catch up with you either at the top of the hill to watch the fireworks, or I'll catch you guys back at Boys Town. Now, if you guys remember those old cartoons where they would do this, and all of a sudden like a puff of smoke would happen and they were gone? Holy crap. Everybody's like, before I even sat down, all of my family teachers and all the kids, they were just gone. So I sat down next to Louisiana. Now, and I'm sure all of you know there's 9 innings in baseball, 7th inning stretch, so it's the top of the 9th, or the 8th inning. I didn't say anything because we had tried all of the behavioral techniques that we knew he was non-compliant. I had to try something else. 8th inning coming to a close, and all of a sudden, people around start gathering their stuff up. As you do. He looked up from his shoes. This is a very strong behavioral trigger. That means openings are happening and I need to find a way in. I leaned over, said, hey man, 20,000 people about to get up and leave at the same time. And I'm afraid that we're going to get separated. I could see, as we studied this, he was processing this information. 9th inning begins. First 3 outs happened rather quickly. We had 3 outs left, as you know. People started actually getting up, and he looked at me really scared, and he goes, oh, okay, let's go. And I go, all right, man, good job, Brace. Right, he's part of behavioral stuff. Good job, man, all right, let's go. So we start working down the aisle. We get about 10 feet from the exit. Game's over. Crowd goes crazy. Everybody's standing up. And the fireworks happen. Fireworks happen so fast and so loud. We both froze. So we're both standing there. And I feel this little hand grab my hand. I look down. He's got tears just streaming down his face. Excitement and joy, wonder and awe, just all written on his face. I realized at that moment, he didn't want to leave because he was afraid he was going to miss the fireworks. Because he'd never seen fireworks before. And I got to share that with him. There's a reason I tell this story. Because what really is going on with your clients is stuff you're not talking about. Because you're not giving the space. You're not asking the right questions. And more importantly, you're not listening in the way that you should, in order to really truly make that connection. If you want that great wealth transfer money, you have to learn how to shut the F up and listen. It is not about you. Stop making it about you. When you make it about the client, solely about the client, you use the atomic content method to answer most of your client questions. Why should I do a Roth conversion? Guess what? I'm going to do a podcast for that. I'm going to shoot a video series for that. Why are wills and trusts so vitally important? I'm going to do a podcast about that. I'm going to do a video series about that. Hell, I'm going to do an educational workshop about that. And then when somebody says to you, hey, I need to know if I need to do a Roth conversion, you can say, this is really good marketing, I'm going to answer that question for you, but I don't know if you know this, but if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, I answer these questions all the time. And if you know somebody who needs to know this, it's super easy to share, and they don't ever have to hear from you. 90% of the people who are inheriting this great wealth transfer are going to leave their financial advisor if there isn't a real relationship there. Creating engaging, personal, authentic content is the key to make real connection. Having an actual niche, not that you work with women, which is 51% of the population, which is actually a majority, or I only work with people who are 65 and above who are preparing for retirement. You're never going to outspend Ken Fisher, everybody. Ever. You're in a really crowded marketplace. You guys need to hyper-focus. Be irreplaceable. Give yourself the gift of realizing that you don't know everything. Find the right tools to get the job done that you need to do with your clients. And last but not least, make a genuine connection with your clients, and especially their spouses. Thank you, guys.